Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving into the absolute emotional roller coaster that is CD Projekt RED. We're going to explore the wild story of a developer that quite literally changed the gaming landscape forever. So, let's kick things off with a massive question. How exactly does a company survive what is arguably the most disastrous launch in entertainment history? Well, to even begin to understand their spectacular comeback, we actually have to travel back in time, like all the way back to post-communist Poland, just to see how this empire was built entirely from the ground up. Act 1, The Hustle, from bazaars to Baldur's Gate. To really appreciate the stakes of this modern comeback story, we first have to look at the ultimate underdog narrative of two high school friends, Marcin Iwiński and Michał Kiciński. Okay, so picture this. It's the 90s, the Iron Curtain just fell, and legitimate Western video games were incredibly rare in Poland. So starting in 1994, these two guys just started selling imported, legal CD-ROMs out of a marketplace in Warsaw. By 1996, they were publishing the very first localized Polish boxes and manuals. And then, in 1999, they took a massive swing-for-the-fences risk. They fully localized the massive RPG Baldur's Gate. And they went all out, hiring iconic Polish cinematic actors to record the voices. It was an absolute smash hit, and it gave them the cash and honestly the confidence to start their very own game development studio in 2002. Enter CD Projekt RED. But, making games from scratch? It is notoriously brutal. After spending almost 2 long years just trying to conceptualize a game based on Andrzej Sapkowski's The Witcher novels, they were completely stuck. And then, out of nowhere, they were saved by an unexpected ally, BioWare. BioWare essentially swooped in, licensed them their Aurora engine, and even let them share a tiny sliver of their E3 2004 booth right next to Jade Empire so the press could actually see the game. They even helped them organize their early production. Now, BioWare's tech was fantastic for getting that first Witcher game out the door in 2007, but it had some major limitations. So CD Projekt RED did what they do best. They took another huge risk. They decided to build their proprietary RED engine. Debuting with The Witcher 2 in 2011, this new engine was a total game changer. It allowed them to create these massive open worlds and, absolutely crucially, pioneer incredibly complex narrative branching designs. We're talking about a system where your choices dynamically shift the entire story. And this ambition, of course, culminated in 2015's The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, an $81 million masterpiece that skyrocketed them to global superstardom. Which brings us to Act 2, the hubris, the Cyberpunk 2077 disaster. Riding the ultimate high from The Witcher 3, the studio pivoted hard to a sci-fi megacorporation vibe, and man, the hype train completely went off the rails. Just look at this number, 8 million. That is 8 million pre-orders for Cyberpunk 2077. To put that into perspective, that relentless marketing campaign allowed the studio to recoup their entire 8-year development and marketing budget in a single day. But despite pulling in $563 million in the very first month alone, the reality behind the curtain was a total disaster. The game was absolutely riddled with severe bugs, glitches, and performance issues, especially if you were playing on a base PS4 or Xbox One. It was so bad that Sony did the unthinkable, well, unprecedented at least, and completely delisted the game from the PlayStation Store. I mean, executives lost over $1 billion in personal stock value overnight. And the studio's fiercely pro-consumer reputation, it was severely and almost irreparably shredded. The fallout was just immense. The company was hit with investigations and multiple class action lawsuits from furious investors who felt entirely misled about the console version's quality. Now, these lawsuits were eventually cleared with a settlement of just $1.85 million. A slap on the wrist, right? But the real cost was something you can't put a price tag on: their integrity in the eyes of the gaming community. Act 3, the redemption, a $100 million comeback. You see, instead of abandoning ship and walking away from the burning wreckage, CD Projekt RED committed to one of the rarest strategies in corporate gaming. They spent an absolute fortune to buy back their broken reputation. They initiated this massive remediation program, dropping roughly $125 million post-launch, just to fix, optimize, and overhaul the game. This wasn't about pushing out some cheap, quick DLC. No. This was about making good on their initial promise to players, no matter what it cost them. This stunning comeback happened in 3 incredibly grueling phases. Step 1 was just pure survival mode, getting stability patches out the door to address memory issues and game-breaking crashes. Step 2, honestly, was the emotional defibrillator, the release of the Cyberpunk Edgerunners Netflix anime. It was a massive hit and brought a huge wave of players right back to Night City. And then step 3 was the complete overhaul, the massive 2.0 update that dropped alongside the universally acclaimed Phantom Liberty expansion, basically rebuilding the core gameplay systems from the ground up. And you really have to remember the human element here because it's deeply moving. Listen to this quote from Quest director Pavel Sasko during a really emotional Twitch stream. He just says, "It's fucking good to be back." That perfectly captures the profound toll this took on the developers. They went from feeling completely wrecked at launch to finally, after years of grinding, achieving the vision they had worked so hard for. And all of that back-breaking hard work paid off. Climbing out of a launch where consumer trust was basically zero, Cyberpunk 2077 now sits at an overwhelming 94 to 95% positive recent rating on Steam. It is literally a phoenix rising from the ashes scenario. But surviving the crisis wasn't enough. They knew they had to fundamentally change how they operate to make sure a disaster like that never happens again. Welcome to the future, a new technological era. To secure their future, they made a really tough call: the strategic abandonment of their own proprietary RED engine. Constantly updating their own custom tech was causing massive friction. So instead, they partnered up with Epic Games to use Unreal Engine 5. This is huge because it lets them rely on hardware-accelerated features, completely drastically reduces the headache of onboarding new talent, and finally lets the team just focus on what they do best: amazing storytelling and game design. And to reduce the incredible risk of relying on a single make-or-break blockbuster release, they laid out this massive multi-project roadmap. We've got Project Polaris, which is the next mainline Witcher game featuring Ciri. We have Project Orion, the Cyberpunk sequel. There's Project Sirius, a multiplayer Witcher spin-off. And Project Canis Majoris, which is a full Unreal Engine 5 remake of the very first Witcher game. But out of all of this, the most crucial lesson they learned is how they are approaching Project Polaris. Right now, they have over 500 developers working on the next Witcher game, and they are actively applying the harsh lessons of the Cyberpunk launch by using a console-first approach. By building the visual and technical foundation on weaker hardware right from the start, rather than scaling down from high-end PCs later, they are locking in optimization on day one. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. Looking at this final slide, ask yourself, did CD Projekt RED just prove that absolutely no launch is too broken to fix if you throw enough dedication and money at it? Or did they just set a genuinely dangerous precedent for the industry where shipping an unfinished game is totally fine as long as you promise to patch it later? What this unbelievable redemption story means for the future of gaming is something we are all going to be watching very, very closely. Thanks for hanging out with me, and keep questioning the world around you.